Channel 18 is good to go, Tom.
Thank you. Before I open the hearing for both conservation commissions, I would like to ask George to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Sampu.
Present.
Morin.
Present.
Lee.
Present.
Hearn.
Present.
Foster.
Present.
Abadili.
Present.
Gilmore present. Administrator Darcy Carley.
Present.
Staff member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
We have the quorum and the floor is yours, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 9th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Eric Fu. The hearing will be held remotely as televised on Channel 18. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to Darcy Curley at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This meeting is being recorded and transmitted by the Information Technology Department of the Town of Barnstable on Channel 18. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, anyone else desiring to make such a recording or transmissions, please let Channel 18 or I know. Hearing none. This evening's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda, next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your checks to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participation as a result of the act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the governor on March 29, 2023, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. 1. The hearing will be televised via Channel 18. 2. Real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 849-7452. No, sorry, it's 849-7452-6409, or the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comment to darcy.curley@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. Before I start the hearing this evening, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate our Commissioner, Bill Hearn. He just finished the MACC certificate program. Congratulations.
Bill.
Thank you. Thank you. We have one item under the old and new business. Commissioner votes on remote or in-person hearing. Couple of things I just want to mention first. One, the governor signed the COVID-19 extensions to March 31st, 2025. Second, for your information, the town will not offer a hybrid mode for hearing. So the only option we have is either in person or remote. Last week, Sarah sent out a summary sheets that we requested. There is about 13 board or commissions are meeting in person. 3 board or commission are meeting between in person or remote. And 12 board of commissions are meeting remotely. And I understand that some of the final determination to go in person or remote is not by the board member, it's done by the chair. So with that, I just want to open it up and let the commissioner voice their comment. I want to go to Pete first.
Thank you. And I potentially have something which I've not mentioned yet before. I think all of you know, in part because of my the war that the computers have against me, I feel extraordinarily limited with respect to technology. Now at school, I have a professional that helps me with that. I don't have that at home. I actually don't even own a computer. This computer that you're seeing me on is a school computer, and it's pretty old. I feel strongly enough that I've contacted the ACLU of Massachusetts regarding the governor's extension of this. And they gave me some information, but I might relay that to my lawyer friend, Commissioner Abadili. One of the things I might put forth now that I've not voiced is a seasonal in-person versus a seasonal remote, because I definitely don't want to lose Abadili just because he's going to Florida. I think both him and many of our citizens that have they're in front of us for decisions are seasonal residents. So I see a real value in keeping remote, at least in the off season. But during the summer, I certainly hope Abo comes back here to do some fishing. And I think we have then a much higher population to be involved with in person. We had, I think about 2 weeks ago or maybe 3 weeks ago, we had a couple individuals in front of us. I think they're from enforcement. And while I'm not making a judgment on their appearance or their demeanor, I know in the past we have had individuals that I'm sure would have struggled, including my father, with a remote request for either input to an issue or in response to an enforcement order that we're asking of an individual. So I think there are citizens within our town that have a limited capability, and I'll put myself close to that group with a remote ability to fully engage in our deliberations and citizen input. So thank you for listening, and please possibly consider a seasonal option here for remote versus in-person. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Bill?
I think that I'm highly supportive of making these meetings in person. I think that communication is only partly verbal. There's a lot of nonverbal communication, and I think that Zoom just does away with that. I just think that you lose a lot when you are, as we are today, on Zoom. I went to a town council budget meeting last week. Place was packed, and there were several groups that were lobbying for their particular agenda item. And, some groups had, like 15 people or what have you, and there are a few of these. They were very effective. When you're in a group and you have a bunch of people that really feel strongly about something, you're not going to get that in Zoom. The town council has the capacity to do the hybrid, and it seemed to work. There were a few people that were coming in on I guess Zoom camera or whatever they were doing, but you can do that. I read with interest Lynn Hamlin's plea to make them in person, and I understand that some of us are going, well, what about when it's snowy and it's dark and it's just an awful winter night and all that stuff? Well, I'm sympathetic with that. And, I don't think I want to be out there slipping and sliding and whatnot. And so the idea of having it all or nothing, I'd go with the in-person, but I do think that a seasonal thing, like maybe have them on Zoom December through April, say, I think would be a good idea. So I think if you can do it seasonal, I'm good. Otherwise, I'd go full on. And I hate to lose Abadili as well. That's all I have to say about it. Thank you.
That was a heck of an ending, Bill.
Larry had that time perfectly.
Yeah.
Larry?
Thank you. First of all, I think that both Pete and Bill have done a very nice segue into this discussion. because they've presented some options. And I presented or prepared rather, with many edits, a 3 or 4 page document that Darcy, I believe, circulated. It's very tempting to read all of it, but I'm going to highlight a few of the points. First of all, I don't see how we can tailor our hearings to the needs or availability or access of one or more commissioners. I think it's all or nothing. And one other matter that's concerning me right now is whether or not this break room concept is keeping other people who may be here from participating in this. I think we're entitled to get comments from citizens, including consultants. So if they're there, let's open the door and let them in. I don't see any reason or justification for not having them be heard. One of my points right from the beginning, and it goes back to last summer, there's no emergency anymore. There's no crisis. There's no danger. All of that is past. So all the things, every time that gets read as a reason for doing it, and it's not even in the most recent statement that the governor presented, and this came from MACCC, it just said pandemic-related authorizations were extended, but all of it is about options. It's not about anything else. So we have options. The other thing that really troubles me is saying that I don't know who's controlling it, whether it's town council or somebody else, but saying that we cannot be participants of a hybrid method is unacceptable. I think if that's the case, then let's have somebody come from town council and explain to us why. But it exists, and it's been existing for a while. And I do appreciate Darcy putting this breakdown together of the different boards and commissions that have either in person or some other combination or all remote. That's information valuable, but we're the one, other than town council, there isn't a body in this town that appears with more interaction with the public than we do. That includes not just the consultants, but includes citizens and abutters and neighbors. I want to interrupt my thought for a moment to say that I'm very respectful and aware of the fact that for some people, and some of those people include some of us, is that it's an inconvenience in some instances. We don't like the long hearings at night. We don't like have to drive back at night. I'm not saying that we should be having Uber be part of our travel plans, but I think that we owe it as a duty to the community and to ourselves to have in person and to be able to communicate with each other. I think one of the major incidents that occurred was on the 4th and 11th of April, when there were 2 in-person hearings. They both involved the first 2 hearings of the shellfish rating issue, but they also involved other matters. And the interaction between the public and even between ourselves was vastly superior to anything it's ever been prior to now. And the one that I sat with Bill Hearn on my right at those 2 hearings, and he had this look on his face like, wow, I really see how this interaction works. And we don't have that here, and we never can have it. There's other issues that deal with, that are concerned to me and should be to everybody else. Technology is one of them, and Bill and Pete have both touched on it. Some of the people who would appear, they have age, health, even confidence issues or desire. Some people are not particularly adept at speaking into a computer. They may do it better in person, or they may have somebody do it for them. But technology can be paralyzing for some people. I think we as a group, as well as individuals, have been baptized into figuring out how to do this, and I don't consider it a great accomplishment in my life. We're also dealing with the fact that there are, I call them both video effects and equity effects. Video effects just mean how clearly we can present, share, and understand and resolve issues. And the equity matter just deals with education, experience, culture, financial status, other matters that may create some degree of inequality, if you will, which can be greatly neutralized when you're in a room together speaking with each other. The paper I put together was not taken lightheartedly. I appreciate what Bill and Pete have said. I'm adamant about this. I too have read what Lynn has written about it, and she's nailed it. She's identified all the points, and whether she's here tonight or not, I don't know. She doesn't have anything on her agenda, but if she is, she should be allowed to speak. And in that regard, however, the conclusion that I have at the moment is that we still are going to have some shellfish rating hearings. How many remains to be seen. But if ever there's a hearing that should be held in person, it's those types of hearings. Some of the other hearings that we have had, I think about the one down at the Katuitt Town Dock, where there were multiple hearings involving also zoning issues. Those hearings were held by Zoom. They were agonizing. They were difficult for the just signing on and off, clicking on and off, trying to unmute and mute ourselves, and hearing the different people. Some people phoned in from all over the place because they have summer properties here, but maybe they were away at the time. These types of hearings where there's multiple people involved should be in person, but they also should have a component for a remote hearing procedure. And that's something that if it's not done, then I think we need to have a group of us appear with town council, whether it's in an open hearing or just to talk to them and find out why, what's the problem. Let's see what we're going on. We're not getting any of that information back. And that the lack of information tells me that maybe we're not getting the straight story. So I'm very adamant about that. I have no idea and no expectations that the rest of you will feel the same way I do, but I have no apology for that or no reason to alter my feelings about it. So that's where I am at the moment. We'll see what else unfolds tonight.
Thank you, Larry. But as far as I'm told that the hybrid option is not available, period. There's no second option as available. The only one is like either in persons or in remote.
Who told you that?
You know, that's from the IT, because we have a problem if there's a hybrid option, there is a manpower issues that we cannot resolve. So that's why we're not going into the hybrid mode.
Well,
Excuse me.
The other thing I want to mention before I go to Darcy is this is a commissioning discussion and a vote. I do not plan to go to the public to get more comment on this one. So, Darcy.
Thank you, Tom. I just clarification, and I think I mentioned this at the last hearing. Larry, there is no breakout room. Everybody who is signed in is in the room. So there's nobody waiting in another room that can't participate. I can see that Lynn is there, Arlene is there. So everybody's in the room. And I cannot thank you, but I cannot take credit for the list of how the other commissions and boards are meeting. That was Sarah. So can't take credit for that. We want to thank Sarah.
Yeah. Thank you. Bill, your hands up.
Yeah, I just, having just been to a hybrid public meeting with the town council, there is a way of doing it. And I guess you did say it must be a manpower thing. And I'm thinking we have, I forget his name, the fellow who works with the Channel 18 thing. He's like on board and he's calling people in, blah, 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 no comment, yada, yada. I don't understand we don't have the manpower, because we do need to have somebody monitoring online stuff. And I'm telling you, if you haven't been to a town council meeting where they have this hybrid thing, there were a few people who came in. I would say that 5% of the audience was on Zoom, and they come in and they come on the screen and they're speaking in the room there. They can do it. I know. Just FYI, if you haven't seen it.
One, I have not seen it. The last time when Channel 18 was talking about looking at the hybrid option is they want our staff to do the staffing on the hybrid options, and we don't have enough staff to do this hybrid options, so that's why it's not being offered. That's what I'm told by Channel 18.
Well,
Okay, John.
Yeah, Pete, let me address a comment to you. Where are you, Peter? There you are. I read you sent out an email or something that came from Darcy, and I read that very thoroughly. I also read Lynn's a lot. And I thought an awful lot about this. I really have. Let me say a couple of things. First of all, I do not think that this decision should be based on what's good or bad for us as a commissioners, as individuals. If I'm away, I'm away. That's a loss. That's it. And I would not vote on this either way because of my personal needs or desires. I think that would be the wrong basis for any kind of decision. I know, Pete, that you have some trouble, like on those 4 o'clock meetings. And I know you have some trouble with computers, but you know what? I don't mean this literally, but go ahead and solve the problems. You know, I'll help you invest in a little computer or something like that, if that's what the decision is. I sort of have to think long and hard about this idea of seasonal versus going one way or the other full time. And I kind of go back to that. I agree with some of the comments that say, you know, being in person does have some distinct advantages. I think there is such a thing as body language. I think that allows for some interaction. You know, I can see it when somebody scorns or makes fun because I said something stupid or whatever. So there is some benefit for that. There certainly is some benefit for some of the consultants, as Lynn has expressed. So I take that into consideration in trying to make my own decision on this question. But I also go back to a meeting 2 weeks ago on the shellfish rating that Larry talked about. There was a young woman by the name of Anna. Anna is a student at the University of, not Amherst, by the way, it's University of Mass at Amherst, I believe. And she made some comments, and in fact, Larry commented afterwards that, gee, that was really a valuable input. I suspect, but for remote, but for Zoom, we would not have the benefit of that kind of a comment. I remember several meetings when there was a doctor involved and a nurse in another one, and they were on duty in the ER or wherever they were at the hospital, but were able to join the meeting because it was on Zoom. I think the majority of our applicants, I suspect, and I don't know this statistically, but I suspect that a very large number of the folks that come before us are from off-Cape, snowbirds that come in. And I think that having the benefit of Zoom allows for them to participate as owners. More importantly, I think, and this is the basis for the legislative, Larry, if you go back and look at it way back, you know, COVID was the reason, but the basis for it was of continuing it is enhanced public participation. And I think that's critical. Recently, both Larry and I had to go before the appointments committee, and that was a Zoom interview. It allowed, I think, for a pretty good discourse, in my opinion. So when I try to balance all these things, you know, I really think that we and I said this to the town council, we represent the citizens of Barnstable. That's our job. We've got within the legal constraints that we have, you know, and within the responsibility to do the most to protect our environments while approving the projects if we can. That's our job. That's what we condition them with. So what then allows for us to meet that obligation to the public? And I lean, not by much, but I do lean towards the Zoom protocol to do it. And Pete, I swear to God, if I have to come over to your house with my ignorant level, I promise you, I will do what I can. So that's kind of where I am as of this conversation, at least, Tom.
Thanks, John. I remember a lot of the large hearings that we have a lot of people signing on remotely and have access to our Zoom meeting and participating in it. So I think there is a value to that for considerations. Louise?
We've had these discussions several times, so coming up with something new and different from what I've said in the past is not exactly easy for me, at least. But there are a few things that I'd like to comment on. There have been several mentions of technology challenged populations, and whether or not that is true, and I imagine it is. I mean, I have my problems also from time to time, as you may know. But at the same time, I say to myself, how is everybody going to get to town hall? Does everybody have transportation to get to town hall? Do they go out at night willingly and easily? So, going back to what John Abadili was talking about, I think that the remote option makes participation very available to more people. And if you can't do it by computer, you can do it by telephone. So, and I think just about everybody uses a telephone these days. So, I would have that as a comment. The pandemic has been declared to be over. That is true. However, COVID is still out there. And looking around our commission, I think many of us, if not all of us, are in an age group where we tend to be probably more severely affected if we happen to be so unfortunate to pick up something. And I would say also, if you talk about the population of senior citizens in the town as a whole, to ask folks to go out into public more than they need to participate with us, maybe is not the wisest idea in terms of public health safety. So the other thing is there was some discussion about group dynamics. I can think back a couple of summers ago, maybe it was summer before last, where we had a major RDA about fencing a cranberry bog. And I don't know how many comments came in from the group abutting that property, but certainly they had a huge impact as a group. I believe it was the RDA was voted down by the commission. I think it was 6-1. So, and I don't think that would have happened if it hadn't been for that group dynamic. So I think that there is a lot of very positive things that can happen with the remote option, and I am in favor of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Louise. Larry, you want to say?
Yes, I, without any apology or embarrassment, I'm the oldest member of this commission. I'm lucky to have good health. My car doesn't, but I do. So that being said, I think that while Louise and John make some interesting and valid points, the question are they determinative? Are they controlling? I can't judge by what I'm not here to judge what they say. I'm here to simply say that this concept that we cannot have a hybrid is totally unacceptable to me, and I'm not going to let it sit. So that being said, I'll find out what I can find out. But I think we're looking at a method by which we do serve the public. I've been an advocate of that for a long time. I've also been an advocate of dealing with a butter representation by more than 100 feet of notification. That hasn't gotten anywhere yet. I think what we're looking at here is, and John Abadili, I do appreciate what you said about not tailoring it to any specific need or idiosyncrasy of or routine of a particular commissioner. I don't see that being an obstacle because it's not going to happen. I think what we really are doing here is how are we going to communicate better? True, for the 1246 Cranberry Bog issue, for Bog Partners, I think it was called, I kept track of it, there were over 40 participants in those hearings. Some of them appeared more than once because there were at least 2 or 3 hearings on it. When we did the property down at the town dock in Katuitt, there were more than that. There were 50, 55, 56 people contributed. I kept track of it. I documented it. And so what we're really looking at is, true, they participated by Zoom. And true, they contributed a lot. And in both of those instances, there was a particular level of intensity that caused us to really take a close look at the whole situation. But the question that I've come up with, and Bill has mentioned it, and Pete has mentioned it, is how do we interact and communicate with each other and with the people that we're questioning and talking to? And that is completely overlooked, and it's not there. That it's a great diminution, even in the interviews that John and I experienced a couple of weeks ago for the appointments committee. I would hardly call that a vitality-based experience. 2 or 3 questions each. No, okay, they saw us on the screen and we saw them on the screen. But that didn't get us anywhere. We didn't have any personal connection with them of any significance. And I'm not saying we have to party with these people, but we have to really relate to them. Many of us over the years have gotten to know the consultants. They've gotten to know us. And I think that is really what makes us a viable board. And if you look at it, Bill and George are relatively new, but the rest of us have been on for John Abadili, 22 years now, John? And then we're down to the rest of us filling in the gaps. That's a long time. And I don't know how much longer we'll be able to maintain this, the Magnificent Seven, if you want to go back to Yul Brynner's movie. But I do not see some of these reasons as being significant enough to keep from going back to in person and then working on how to find ways to open up the whole format for people to participate. And I also totally disagree with if Lynn and Arlene are sitting out there and they've bothered to submit prior comments, and if the chair thought to reach out to prior consultants last summer, these are people that should be heard. Is it going to be dispositive? I don't know, but they're members of the public. So I'm very convinced on that point.
Thank you, Larry. Before I go further on this one of the things that I was thinking before this hearing is I was thinking about trying to limit this to a 1-year experiment stuff to go whether it's going to do 1 year, whether it's remote or in person or how we want to vote it. So we should put a timeline in there. So, Bill.
I hear 2 factions that are pretty much, it's 3 and 3, and Tom, you haven't weighed in. And I think that the arguments, I don't know, I think having in-person is a stronger for public engagement, communication, and whatnot. That's my thing. But I really do not understand why we can't have a seasonal. I hear John just dismissing it out of hand, and I guess I'm going, wait a minute. If snowy, wintry, crappy New England winter weather isn't a legitimate reason, then I don't know what would be. And it just seems like, why can't we have a seasonal? We could. We have a commission that's basically right now with you, Tom, sitting in the middle without having played your hand. I don't know why we can't, split the baby, so to speak, and just have a seasonal. I don't get that. I don't see why we can't. That doesn't make sense. I think going, oh, no, we're going to go for a year. Nope, we're going to go for a year. I think that's wrong. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Any other comment from the commissioner? George, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'd just say, I've listened to everybody's comments tonight, but it comes back to me that when I was in business, most of my clients before the board were out of state and could never, they'd always hire consultants. They could never attend commission meetings. And I've seen, since we've done Zoom, I've seen a lot of the same people present at these meetings, and I just think that's a really good thing. I appreciate that some people are a bit IT challenged. I think we can all work that out. I think the remote way gives us the best participation. And again, Lynn Hamlin, kudos to you for what you sent in, because I read that hard and long and took it to heart. But I still think that the remote way is the best way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Tom, are you going to comment your view on it?
My comment, my thinking is I am leaning towards the remote, because with the time, with the public access to this is important in terms of remote participation stuff. I know that seasonal is a considerations, but when I come down to it, I think is the people that can call in and participate for the discussion and hearing stuff. I think is outweighs that little bit in terms of the seasonal. And in addition, that's why I kind of put a timeline for 1 year, and then we can come back and look at this again. So I don't want to put it as a permanent thing. So that's my comment. Larry.
We really don't have a count as to how many people, we know how many people participated in some of these larger hearings. We don't know how many people didn't participate remotely because they weren't comfortable doing so. It's a very, very difficult thing to project. It's almost like a professional sports team trying to figure out what their attendance is going to be. It's impossible to figure it out. But I think the question here is that for some of these hearings, if you have both, and okay, Tom is trying to say it's off the table. I'm not accepting that. But that's aside from that. I think that if we are truly going to communicate with the public, we basically have limited the effectiveness of it. I even think that our communications with the people from natural resources is greatly diminished by having to do it remotely. The level of communication is being downplayed. The fact that people are on the Zoom and talking, somehow we think that that's okay. And amongst the 7 of us, we've known each other long enough that we've had the experience before of in person. Now we're being isolated in our own offices or our own bedrooms or whatever room we happen to be in. And I think that is a very insufficient way for us to be running this board and to be doing this in public and here in Barnstable. And I think we are missing the opportunity that we should be pursuing, not pushing away.
Thanks, Larry. But before I go to Louise, Darcy, am I right that we are informed that the hybrid option is not available?
I was not notified that it's available. I think one of the concerns we have is staffing. Kim is taking minutes. I'm assisting with the bringing up plans. There's consultants that still need assistance with plans. You have to have somebody be able to bring the people into the room and manage the room. I did not look into how the other boards or commissions are using this hybrid or any training in it, but it would be a stretch on the staff.
That's my understanding from Channel 18 about the manpower, that requirement for the staff. That's why that option is not available at this point, at least to my mind. Louise?
Larry made the comment that while we know about the number of people who are coming in from the public on Zoom, we don't know how many people haven't because they're not either comfortable using technology or interacting via technology. But and I agree with that. But we do have a sense, and it's a qualitative sense as far as I know, about the number of people we have participating on Zoom versus how many we have had in the past in our hearing room. And my sense is that over 12 months, we've had many more interactions with people, especially ones who are not in town, who are on the other side of the canal, maybe on the other side of the country. So, my sense, and maybe other people would want to chime in on this, participation is up, regardless about regrettable situations where people aren't feeling comfortable using the system, but hopefully with time that will change as well. So that's my take on it. Thanks.
Thanks, Louise. I think we have enough discussion on this one. Let me try this and see how it goes from here. Could I have a motion to approve the future hearing to be a remote hearing for at least 1 year?
I would second the motion. I think Louise second the motion. I think we should, out of respect for a different view, continue to that if in fact the remote option, the hybrid option does for some reason become available, then we could reopen it. But other than that, I would second the motion to extend this until June 1st or whatever of 2024. So you have a date.
Until June 1st, and then if the hybrid option is available, we can bring it back.
Reopen it.
So Louise, seconded.
Yes, I second it.
Roll call, George.
Abadili.
Aye.
Sampu.
Pete.
Okay, I know how to unmute and mute
You're
myself.
playing with us, Pete.
Nay.
Morin.
No.
Foster.
Yes.
Gilmore, yes. Hearn.
No.
Lee.
Yes.
The motion carries 4-3.
So we are going to the remote for at least 1 year until June 1st. If there is a hybrid option available, we're going to open it back up for discussions. Thank you. Go back to the hearing tonight. We have one RDA. The first one is Eric Fu, planting of native trees, shrubs, and perennials to create a woodland garden in the backyard at 1645 Race Lane, Marstonville, as shown on the Assessors Maps 047 parcel 010.004. is Julia representing the homeowner?
Yes, that's me. I'm Julie Estevez of Julia Garden Design. And
Your plan is up.
my plan is up. Thank you. The description of the project is the new owners of the property. They've owned the property for a couple of years, and we've designed a native and resilient low input design to improve the whole property. And the area in question for this meeting is partially in the 50-foot buffer and in the 100-foot buffer. So we are creating a children's woodland garden for the family. And the garden is designed to have native plants and wood chip paths. It's a layered planting, so there's a lot of ground covers for naturalizing shade perennials and trees, small trees. There's no alterations to the grading of that area. There's also just some storm damage that we'd like to remove from an oak tree. There's some branches hanging, and there's two pitch pines that look like they're just about dead that we'd like to remove within the 100-foot buffer.
Thank you. Darcy, do you have any comment on the planting plan?
Thank you, Tom. This looks great. I know I checked in with Ed Hoops. He was out at this property and he has reviewed it. I just had questions about as far as was there any understory removal to put these plants in, and there isn't. They're actually just enhancing it. So I think this is a good project. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. Any question from the commissioner, Pete?
Yes, my question is in the control of something like Asiatic bittersweet and or even the potential control from a natural in a children's forested area. You can't have a whole bunch of briars growing either. So I certainly condone some just cutting, manual cutting of Asiatic bittersweet. And I could understand some control put on the briars. Extensive briar growth up into smaller trees can often bring them down. So
Okay.
I'm okay if that is before us in this project.
Okay. Yes.
Do you have any comment? Julia?
Yeah, in most of the area, I mean, the plants are coming up. I know there's a lot of invasives on on one side of the property. So where we're planting, we will have to cut them down as we're planting and hopefully manage them through cutting. And the goal of the planting is so that it's dense enough that we are able to, hopefully, I know it's hard to control those kind of invasive plants, but we want a dense planting just so there's not enough room for everything. The idea.
Darcy, is it possible if we approve this projects, can the contractor meet with the staff to go over what can be done or not?
Sure. I'm confident that Ed checked this out. He was fine with what was needed to be clipped for the value of the plants that were going in. So I have to rely on our agent and what he's seen out there.
Thanks. John?
Yeah, given what's out there now and given what they're proposing, well done. God bless you. It's great. It's awesome. Go for it. I mean, if everybody else did things like this, we'd be far better off as a town. So my kudos to the homeowners and your assistance in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the proposal. The planting looks nice. Any other comment from the commissioner? Any public comment? Channel 18.
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So move. Second.
Roll call.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. That is unanimous.
Thank you. Good luck. Good
Thank
luck to
you.
homeowners.
Mhm.
Thank you.
We have two continuances. The first one is Christopher C. Bushing, addition to existing single-family dwelling and relocation of septic tank at 39 Hewlett Highway, West Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Map 136, parcel 048. This is a continuance from April the 25th. I think the quorum is everyone except George.
That's
There is
correct,
a
Mr.
revised
Chairman.
plan dated April the 28th. George on the quorum, am I right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
So there is a revised plan dated April the 28th. Dan,
Good evening, Chairman Lee, members of the commission. Yes, we did submit a revised plan last week. Subsequent to that, Darcy did another careful site visit and found a couple of pipes. So she wanted us to pick up a couple of dry wells that had snuck by us. So I pulled the plan up here to show you that. I revised this today. We can discuss it. The only difference in this plan and the other plan is that we've picked up a dry well in this area here and in this area here. And then also the request was made today to perhaps substitute in some northern bayberry. So we did that. We're happy to do that. It's a nice food for the birds that enjoy the great marshes. So we've introduced 15 of those. If that looks okay, we're happy to do that. Overall, we've increased the plantings up to the 3-to-1 level, leaving just a little bit of lawn in the back here. If we could get a little bit of relief on that, we'd appreciate it. It's not quite 4-to-1, but it's close. Hopefully that's a nice improvement. And between the, pulling up all the existing wildflower, which didn't take well last year anyway, the vertical diversity by introducing no less than 3 red cedars, and the mixture of shrubs that you could find that's approvable. Mr. Anderson is in the audience if you have any questions of the builder, and we'd be glad to answer any questions if you do have them. Thank you.
so on the revised plan, you have some of those 50 pounds rocks as the demarcation along the mitigation planting area.
Yeah, and where we had the woody shrubs, we figured that would be adequate. I know with the wildflower meadow, maybe a rail fence would be more appropriate, but these, you're not going to want to mow them. You'll ruin your mower. So we thought the rocks would be good.
Darcy, is that okay with you? Darcy?
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Yes, this looks good. I believe the 50-pound rocks, let me check with Dan, that meets our new suggested, those would be at least 1.5 feet high. That's important.
Those are a little under 1.5 feet high, so boy,
that's our guidelines now. We're making it clear that this is what we're expecting for demarcation, and I think I sent you that list.
Okay, yeah, if you did, I missed it. I get a lot of emails. I apologize for that.
Okay, I'll send that to you again. Instead of having a certain size pound rocks, it's the height that we want to make sure it's straight across the board. We're expecting everybody to do that.
Okay.
And the only other special condition that I would recommend, if you needed to do any hand clipping of invasives to protect these plants, I think we need to be notified in writing. It would make me feel better about no mowing. You were correct in the special conditions that we had in the last one. It did state, there's you could do it for some invasive removal, but I think we need to have it in writing when the homeowner wants to do that, to do some hand clipping.
Sounds reasonable.
Thank you.
So your planting is fine, right, with this revisions?
Yeah. Thank you, Dan, for adding the northern bayberry. So it would just be the revision of our recommended mitigation to meet the 1.5 feet requirement.
Sounds good. I'll change the language and issue it later tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, you can add that into your label. You can add the pound, but also with the height. Any other question from the commissioner?
Yeah, I do.
Bill.
Yeah, I just want to, this is the project where there was a mitigation area and we had photographs and it was to the right of the rocks, this line of rocks where it was a meadow. Am I to understand? I think I am understanding. I just want to hear a yes, I guess. That basically this is going to have some plantings, but then it's simply going to be allowed to go wild. And as Darcy said, yeah, if you have some invasives, we're going to clip it, but there's going to be like no mowing. Because the last time when I looked at it, it's like, wow, this place looks like it's been mowed. So this is going to basically be planted and allowed thereafter to grow wild in the spaces in between. Is that not correct?
No, you got it. We do allow, and your guidelines do allow some temporary mulching just to keep weeds from coming up while the plants develop. But then you let that go fallow, and we just allow the shrubs to take over and infill the area. They're spaced per the county that they're as tight as they want to be naturally growing. So when they fill out, there won't be any real ground cover. It'll just be these large bayberries and blueberries. And then if there are any invasives, we'll snip them with Darcy's permission. But the mulch will go to natural ground cover overfill.
Natural feral is good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. John?
Dan, if I understand the latest plan, we were hoping to get obviously full mitigation on the property. I think you're saying, well, I can't give you the full required mitigation under the regulation. I'm short by 490 square feet and I want you to give me relief on that. Is that what you're asking for?
That's correct. As stated on the plan, we're short about 490, but there's very little lawn left in the back, and you've got a full 3-to-1. So that's our ask, and would really appreciate it if we could get that.
Okay, well, as much as I don't like it, there are two options available for you to meet that 490, and one of them is fee in lieu of. The other option, which I prefer, is planting somewhere else. So have you addressed that? I mean, that gives you the option, not just saying, oh, well, heck, we're going to forget the 490.
No, we're very happy to pay the fee in lieu.
Well, that's certainly at a minimum, if we decide this is mitigation constrained, which is required, obviously, then obviously I think it would be conditioned upon the 490 being times the existing fee.
I think
that's where I would come from.
If it helps your decision on this, I was looking at an older plan of this site, and there was a gentle slope here before this house was pushed out. And I don't think would even, be talking about this. The coastal bank is kind of a man form that was leveled by the septic system and the walkout. If it were the natural grade in this area, you'd have at minimum, at the most, a state bank, and none of this would be would probably be in as an RDA with no. So I think in this particular case, if it does help you find that it's constrained, I think you could look at that landform really being kind of a man form, something that was created, and did form a technical coastal bank well landward of the more wet resources like the salt marsh and the BVW. Yeah. So I just, if it helps make this a unique site, but again, there's very little lawn in the back, and boy, we really would appreciate if we could get a little relief.
Thanks, John. Louise?
Dan, is there some space that is north of that planting strip that you're showing that could work in terms of adding more mitigation?
There is a very little amount, but this is the deck here, and nothing's going to grow underneath that. But there's a little bit of room along here, but it's barely enough to push the mower through. And then, in here, but again, it's,
I'm talking about up toward what's marked as the stone steps.
Oh, stone steps over in this area.
Where the proposed addition is going to go, that area.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's kind of a bank, we're gonna put the dry well in there. You might be able to tuck a few more plants in there, without, hurting too much.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, some progress. The other thing is you've got a path that you've got marked by some of these boulders going out into the wetland, into
Yes.
the great marsh.
Yeah.
Do people really use that path to get into the great marsh? I mean, is that really useful?
They're
People do
avid
that?
duck hunters.
Oh,
No, I just, honestly, it is kind of a nice little path to go down there and look out. They do use it. And you normally do leave a 4-foot natural path.
right.
It's just kind of a neat thing. It breaks the shrub, layer, and you can kind of walk out and kind of peek around if you're down there in the lawn. So
Well, I just,
it's something.
looking at this, it seems as if it could probably fit in a little bit more mitigation than we've got now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Louise. Just one quick thing. Is there any opportunity right behind the existing garage?
That area is kind of a cedar grove up there, but we might be able to get some shade tolerant plants in there. It's not really lawn right now, so I don't know how much credit you'd give for it, but it's kind of a natural area now.
Because in our last hearing, I think I hear it for the comment from the commissioners. Basically, we prefer the mitigation planting rather than Luffy, because this is only a small amount of the Luffy. So
Yeah. Well, if there's no way I'm going to get the votes, then I'll just plant it. If you could just have staff review it, but we'll put on the other 460, and the owner will just have to not have too much lawn.
well, even you shy a little bit, I don't think we are that critical in terms of square foot per square foot wise.
I think it would be great if they can squeeze in 460 square feet. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
That's what we require.
Yeah.
I agree, Louise.
Larry?
Thank you. And Pete, I'm seeing your hand up, so I don't know whether we should do this together. But first of all, I want to go back to June of 21, and I not only looked at the minutes but also listened to the video, and found out that throughout the discussion of that particular approval, there was very little information about the type of plants or where they were going to go. They were going to be right along the edge where the green dots are now showing, but it wasn't very specific. Now, I'm not saying that's bad or good, but that sort of threw me off a little bit. The second issue that I've come up with deals with, and I understand what both John and Louise are saying, but I'm wondering, we've got and I'm not trying to be disrespectful of the parameters of the regulation, but we've got a situation here where we've got a property owner and a consultant that are working very faithfully and persistently to come up with something that's going to work. And how wed are we to the 4-to-1 or the number of square footage? Isn't there a basis for being reasonable as to where things can be placed, rather than how many square feet are occupied? I'd like to see some flexibility, and maybe that's sacrilegious. I don't know, but we come up in this area on what would be, Dan, I think I'm looking at the arrow. So this would be the southeast corner of this property, where it says intercept pipe, new drywall, and that. You've got some drywall issues in there. I would think if some scattered plantings could go in there once you have the drywall situation done and determine how to do it, that would be, in my mind, would be fair and enough. And not measuring the square footage, but looking the type of plants. The one other thing I wanted to mention dealt with down here, the comment about going in and cutting. And my thought is that that would be a relatively valuable and appropriate situation to allow, because you want to trim behind here, let these shrubs take hold and grow. Once they grow, then they'll grow into the existing wetlands, no matter what the plants are, but they may need a little trimming to help. And maybe that's something that is too subjective or too arbitrary. I don't know. But so those are the three thoughts that I have in mind. And Dan, I don't think it's a question of whether you're going to get the votes. You may or may not get it. You don't know yet. But I'm hoping there's going to be some flexibility and reason here, and let you move on with this project. Because I think you've done more than your share of getting it ready to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Pete?
Okay, so yes, I am noticing the 3 cedar trees for some vertical complexity. And oh, by the way, I am a duck hunter out in this region. So as I'm sitting out in the marsh quietly in the morning and I look back towards the land, what I have seen over the last 20 years is really a loss of vegetation between homes along the edge and the Great Marsh. And I understand why. I mean, people want an unobstructed view. What we have here, Dan, is of course 3 cedar trees quite to the side. So in front of and amongst the bayberries, there doesn't look to be much vertical complexity there. Bayberries, I mean, they'll get maybe 6 to 10 feet max, I think. I'm not a horticulturalist, but this commissioner would be thrilled. And when I say thrilled, it means I might forgive some of that 490 square feet if a cedar or 2 are put amongst the bayberries. Was it bayberries or, yeah? Is that what? No.
High bush blueberry and bayberry. Northern
Yeah, bayberries. And amongst the bayberries. Just, again, they're not going to obstruct the view, but it will break up essentially this looking into the highlands from the marsh, the public view, at least. Well, there's not many duck hunters out there. I admit that, but when I'm out there, I am a public citizen in our town land, and then I don't see just this big glaring house, and it would provide what I would then consider height complexity across that whole front with 1 or 2 more cedars in the middle. Thank you for considering.
Who else? Any more comment on this? Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Let me try this and see how it goes from here. Could I have a motion to approve this project subject to receipt of a revised plan showing the additional mitigation planting, including 2 more cedar in the center, and notify the staff for manual clipping?
Weren't we going to ask to in some more mitigation? We were talking, Dan said he thought they could do that.
Yeah. I said subject to
Excuse me, Tom.
revised plan showing the additional mitigations.
Well, okay, let's make that clear, because I disagree with Pete a little bit. I mean, I like his suggestion and I support it, but I'm not willing to grant a waiver for that from meeting the mitigation requirements of the regulation. I don't see it justified here, but I do support Pete's suggestion. I think it's a great one. So I'd go back to what Luis said. Dan was willing to put in that additional mitigation in order to meet the 490 and add the trees.
Yeah, if we could word it that I'll relocate the western 2 cedars, because those are already in a cedar grove over there. We'll put those out towards the middle and then plant the rest of the 460.
Right.
Yeah, that's good by me.
Yeah.
I second the motion if you needed it.
And I'm sorry, there was a note change for the demarcation and the mitigation.
Yeah.
To include the height for the label.
Yes.
Are we all set in the motions?
I think so.
Okay. Someone seconded, right? I'm with the amended. Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous.
All right, I appreciate
you,
your
Dan.
consideration. Thank you.
Thank you for having, working with us. The second continuance is Thomas Keene remove and replace existing deck with new deck. A 2-foot extension is proposed on the west side with repurposing of the existing sonotubes at 160 Hackenett Road, Centerville, as shown on the assessors map 252 parcel 144. This is a continuance from April the 25th and just waiting for the NHSP letter. And we have received the NHSP letter dated April the 27th. Under the Wetland Protection Act, the division has determined that this project, as currently proposed, will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected rare wildlife species. Under the Endangered Species Act, the division has determined that this project is currently proposed appears to be exempted from the MISA review pertinent to 321 CMR 10.14, which states the following project and activities shall be exempted from the requirement of 321 CMR 10.18 through 10.23. Could I have a motions to?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think everybody is eligible except for John.
Okay. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing, authorize the staff to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have one item taken under the advisements. JMS Holding LLC, modification of existing pier by converting from post to pile supports with no change in footing and footprint at 134 South Bay Road, Osterville, as shown on the assessor's map 093 parcel 064. And this is a continuance from April the 25th. So I finished the drafting of the findings with the help from John and Peak, and Darcy has a look at it. We also sent it to Kate for a quick read. So this is the proposed finding for this. The Conservation Commission find the following: 1, the proposed change of a seasonal sections 4 foot by 80 in length of the existing pier to become a permanent part of the pier constitute a substantial change to the existing structure as set forth in the Commission's Dock and Pier Regulation, Chapter 703. Accordingly, this application will be reviewed under the local regulation, Chapter 703, adopted by the Commission under the Town of Barnstable Ordinances, Chapter 237, with an effective date of October 26, 2004, and the latest revision of this regulation with an effective date of February 20, 2018. Second, the 2 waiver requests, the first one is 703-4J1 related to the pier length, and the second waiver request is 703-4L related to the closest to the center line of the lot, will not have an adverse impact to the resource area in this specific locations. Third, the third waiver request for 703-4M, which would allow for a 12-inch depth under the prop, is not acceptable. The Conservation Commission find this pier is in SC 22.0 growing area code for the West Bay Barnstable by Massachusetts Division of Marine Fishery, dated June 7th, 2021, which is classified as approved by Massachusetts Division of Marine Fishery in the 3-bay segment WB2 as identified in the Town of Barnstable Shellfish and Habitat Rating Map, which has a rating of 9 out of 10 in the latest Shellfish Rating Map dated 2011. Pertinent to the regulations and to the regulation, the Conservation Commission has determined that the rating of 6 and higher is a high value shellfish area. The current approved rating map is dated December 20th, 2011, as posted on the Conservation Division website. The existing pier is also located in the West Bay Shellfish Relay area, which is an area designated for the protection of the shellfish and shellfish habitat. Under Chapter 703-4M1, the minimum depth under the draft of the boat must be 30 inches at mean low water. Multiple scientific studies confirm this insufficient depth of water between a molar prop and the bottom can cause significant damage to the shellfish and shellfish habitat. 4. The Commission has relied historically and with confidence on opinions from our town biologists with regard to the site-specific review and recommendations. In this case, the two town biologists, Tom McCarty, which retired in 1997 as under the SE3-3237, and Elizabeth Lewis in 2023 under the SE3-6084, has confirmed that this location is considered significant for shellfish and shellfish habitat. Additionally, the applicant's consultant acknowledged that the shellfish findings showing good population of cohorts in close proximity to the existing pier in her email dated April 8, 2023. The findings are consistent with the August 1897 McCarty sampling under the SE3-3237 done prior to the installation of the pier at these locations. Fifth, since the Commission proposed to allow a permanent dock at this location pertinent to these regulations with the waiver noted above, the Commission makes no finding in this matter on the environmental impacts of seasonal versus permanent dock. In conclusions, the Barnstable Conservation Commission approved the pier subject to compliance with this regulation, granting two waiver as requested under 703-4J1 and 703-4L, but denying the waiver request pertinent to the water depths. That's the proposed finding. Any comment from the Commissioner before I do the vote? Larry?
First of all, we have not received, until you read it, we'd never seen it. Two of the members of commission have seen it. So in this particular case, I find it unacceptable for us to be voting on something that we haven't had a chance to read and study. That being the case, I think that there's a lot of significant information and evidence that is lacking. I'm well aware of the discussion that we had 2 weeks ago. John and I primarily had it dealing with the terms significant, important, and substantial. And tied to that was the concept of expansion. The question, however, is that there's been no, it's not contested that the proposed dimensions of this replacement pier is identical with the existing location of the present pier. So if there's been no enlargement, there's no expansion. And if there's no expansion under 703-4P, then there can't be significance or importance. That would be the reasoning that I would apply. That being the case, then I will once I would request that a copy of that, of what you have read, will be provided to all of us. And thereupon I will, within a very short period of time, submit my rebuttal to that. And then I will then determine what additional things, if any, I may do. So that's where I am on it. And I think that we need to, when it comes to these proposed findings, we've got to have them in advance. It's ethical, it's proper, it's the way to do it. Not having them for us to review is basically taking away from us the power to apply our own analysis of it.
Well, Larry, I just want to mention last time when we had that hearing, we also take a vote whether this is a substantial change, and the vote was 5-1, and that's why we draft up the finding from that vote. the reason that we did not send out, we don't have enough time trying to get everything in and send it out to you. I apologize for that. So, George.
Yeah, can I comment, Tom? I know I can't vote on this, but can I comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that you guys had that hearing and I was away and you voted that this was a substantial change. I thought Arlene made a very compelling argument regarding, and when I think of substantial change, I think of lengthening, I think of widening, I think of more square footage covered, I think of, doubling the size of floats. I thought that Arlene made a very compelling case that there's the same amount of shellfish there now than there was before. The jetting issue was I've always felt that jetting of seasonal piling is much more harmful than the installation of piling. So I don't see this as a substantial change. And again, just my comments. I know I can't vote on it, but I just want to put my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Last time we are talking about the change from a seasonal to a permanent. That's how we defined it as far as the substantial change of the structure itself, and make that determinations. John?
Yeah, I'd like to elaborate on that, and sort of disagree with George and certainly with Larry on this. The fact of the matter is that you've got a substantial part of that dock, 4 by 80 feet. Yes, it's going to be in the same footprint. One of them is in, 3 months, 4 months out of the year? Am I? Hello?
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
you're good.
Oh, okay. Is in 3 months, maybe 4 months out of the year, whatever it is. Whereas the approved dock, which is what's being asked for, is in fact, it's going to be there 12 months out of the year. A substantial portion of the docks going from 4 months to 12 months in the same footprint. That, to me, as one of the authors of the regulation, would constitute a substantial change in the existing dock. So that's where I was coming from, George.
Thank you, Jim.
Any other questions or comment from the commissioner? If not, what I want to do though is to vote for the finding, and then there's some special condition that I want to read in, and as a second vote on that finding. So on this finding, could I have a motion to approve the finding and the conclusions?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Warren.
No.
Sampu.
Aye.
That motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
It's 5-1.
Yes, 5-1.
So for the special conditions, I'm going to read a few in here. I think altogether is like 8. So first one is the year of time restrictions shall be observed and to protect the sensitive life stage of horseshoe crabs from beach constructions activity on potential nesting beach. Constructions to the beach could bury and crush springer adults, crabs, and nests. No in-water construction activity shall take place from May 1st to June 30th of any year to protect spawning habitat. Second, construction activities, including staging of construction material and equipment, as well as equipment transit to and from the construction site, should avoid intertidal habitats to the greatest extent practicable. As much work as possible should be conducted from an upland portion of the project site to minimize impacts and avoid the compactions of sediment in mapped shellfish habitat. Any work in the intertidal zone should be limited to low tide, such that work is conducted in the dry. Third, no boat shall be used or berthed at the approved pier, such as at any time less than 30 inches of water resided between the bottom of the boat and the prop in the full download positions, whichever is the lowest and the top of the substrate. Fourth, the tidal reference point for calculating the depths under the vessel shall be 2 feet below the mean low water at the end of the float. This is from the data plan dated February the 15th, 2023, or approved by the commissions. Fifth, the proposed vessel shall be berthed at the float, shall require prior approval from the Conservation Commission. Spec sheets for the proposed vessel shall be submitted for review. 6, a small sign shall be displayed at the end of the pier facing open water. 7, work on the pier shall occur between mid-tide rising and mid-tide falling, or as otherwise necessary to provide a minimum 12-inch clearance for the working barge above the substrate. 8, prior to starting any work, a pre-construction meeting on site must take place. Site visits shall include the following parties: conservation agent, town shellfish biologists, or designated shellfish staff members, project engineer and consultants, and contractors. The contractor shall prepare and submit a written work protocol to the conservation administrator at least 4 weeks prior to the pre-construction meeting. The work protocol shall include specific of timing, access, equipment, storage, and stockpiling of material and work limits, use of barge for unloading equipment and materials. That's the special condition that we'll add into the other boilerplate. I'll send you, Darcy, I'll send you that special finding for your document.
Okay, thank you.
Could I have a motion to approve the special conditions that I just read into the record?
So moved.
No, second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
No,
Sampu.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-1.
Thank you.
I have raised my hand, Tom, just to ask that when the conditions are typed up, and please provide copies of the order as written to all of us.
Okay. We have 3 certificates of compliance. Louise, Arlene?
Excuse me, could I get a clarification on one of those conditions? You read a condition, something about 2 feet below mean low water. Could you read that again?
The tidal reference point for calculating the depths under the vessel shall be 2 feet below the mean low water at the end of the float. This is from the plan dated February the 15th, 2023, or approved by the commissions.
So that's just the datum reference.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. We have 3 certificates of compliance. Alan and John Desmonds, SE3-5854, Frederick and Roberto Tomsburg, SE3-4561, and Asha Counts Estate Nominal Trust, SE3-5130. Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Hearn,
Aye.
Gilmore, aye. Foster,
Aye.
Abadili,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
Moran.
No. I'm sorry, yes. I'm sorry, yes.
That is unanimous.
We have 1 set of minutes, April the 25th.
And make a motion, we accept the minutes as submitted.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gilmore abstains. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
No.
Sampu.
Aye.
That motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-1.
Larry voted against?
Mm-hmm.
Larry, you voted against the minutes? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, I
Okay.
did. The multiple changes with no I don't know where they came from.
Okay.
For me, I worked with him on that.
Well, that's not the way we should do things. We don't do things that way.
Luis mentioned last time when we looking at this minute. Our next hearing is a remote meeting on May 23rd. There is like almost 11 applications that night. So
Oh God.
yeah, it'd be a long one.
Mm-hmm.
Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
I
Gilmore, aye. Hearn,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Moran,
Is this to adjourn? Is that what you're doing, George?
yes.
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 Sam Poo.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8 p.m.